What did the map of the world look like, thousands of years ago?
That's a really big question.
Yeah, it is. But imagine for a second that you are holding an ancient GPS device.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, but instead of a glowing digital screen, this geographical survey is encoded within the soaring poetry of a grand epic. You aren't just looking at trade routes or topography.
You're really looking at the very edges of human comprehension.
Exactly. It is a map where known continents gradually dissolve into realms of gods, impenetrable wastelands, and terrifying monsters.
It is a breathtaking concept when you really dig into it. We so often fall into the trap of assuming ancient maps were just rough, highly localized sketches, like maybe a river here, a mountain there.
There's basic landmarks.
Right. But what we're looking at today in the source material is an encyclopedic, pan-continental vision of the Earth. It is a document that combines remarkably accurate real-world geography with these awe-inspiring cosmic boundaries.
That blending of reality and myth is what makes this text so fascinating. It raises the question of where did the actual scouting end and the mythology begin?
Yeah, that's the core mystery.
Let's look at the text. We are doing a deep dive into the Valmiki Ramayana, specifically the Kishkindha Kanda.
A fantastic section.
It really is. Our mission today is extracting and decoding the spectacular geographical survey laid out by the Vanara King, Sugriva. He has just ordered the vast Vanara Sena to search the four corners of the earth for Sita.
The stakes couldn't be higher.
Absolutely. But before we trace these routes, a quick but very important note. This content is for simplified awakening. Ancient wisdom decoded. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more decoded insights from the Ramayana and other timeless texts.
To set the context for you, Sugriva isn't just pointing blindly at the horizon and hoping for the best.
No, not at all.
As the king dispatching these massive search parties, he is delivering an advanced intelligence briefing. He is laying out a highly structured, incredibly detailed map of the world as it was understood in ancient times.
It's basically a military briefing.
Exactly. The text reveals a geopolitical and topographical awareness that is stunning for its era. But as the search parties push further outwards from the epicenter of the Indian subcontinent, you'll notice the geography slowly shifts.
Right, the political borders fade into the unknown, and you cross into utopian and divine territories. Okay, let's unpack this. Sugriva divides his forces into four massive contingents, one for each cardinal direction.
A very systematic approach.
Let's start with the Eastern Expedition, the realm of sunrise. The text notes that a massive group is dispatched under the leadership of a warrior named Vinata.
And the route outline for Vinata begins with very tangible, historically verifiable locations. The text directs them to start their search along the great known river systems. It serves as the baseline of their known world.
Right. The text specifically highlights the Bhagirathi, which is the Ganga, the Sarayu, and the Son River. And what I find incredible is the detail here. The Son is wonderfully described as carrying reddish waters.
Which is such a specific detail.
Yeah. That isn't just poetic license. It shows actual eyewitness observation of the region's silt. From there, the army is instructed to sweep through specific territories like Videha, Malwa, Kasi, and Magadha.
What's fascinating here is how the map reflects the economic and political realities of ancient India. Kasi and Magadha weren't just random markers. They were massive economic powerhouses.
True hubs of civilization at the time.
Exactly. But Sugriva's knowledge doesn't stop at the coastline. He tells Vinata to cross the sea to a place called Yavadvipa.
Yavadvipa.
Yes, and the text describes Yavadvipa as an island graced with 7 kingdoms, and it specifically mentions nearby islands abundant in gold and silver.
Traditionally, historians and scholars identify Yavadvipa as modern-day Java and the broader Indonesian archipelago. It is staggering to think that this ancient survey reaches all the way across the ocean to Southeast Asia.
It really is.
But it makes sense when you consider the ancient maritime trade routes. Spices, gold, and cultural exchange were already flowing across the Indian Ocean back then.
Absolutely.
However, this is also the exact point where the map starts to leave our modern satellite-verified atlases behind.
Precisely. The familiarity of trade routes gives way to the dread of the open, unexplored ocean. Once they push past Yavadvipa, the geography transitions into the cosmic. The Vanaras are warned of the Red Sea and then an ocean of milk.
An ocean of milk.
Yes, known in the text as Siroda. It is poetically described as having white waves that look like churning pearl necklaces. In the middle of this treacherous, foamy sea, rises a huge white mountain called Rasaba.
Wait, an ocean of milk, is that purely mythological, or could that be an ancient mariner's attempt to describe a geographical phenomenon, like maybe bioluminescence or the treacherous white-capped waves of a stormy distant sea?
It is likely a mix of both. Ancient explorers often used mythological language to describe natural phenomena they couldn't fully explain. But if they keep pushing east past that ocean, they eventually hit the absolute boundary of the Eastern Search.
The edge of the map.
Right. The text describes a glorious golden mountain named Udayagiri. This is the mountain of sunrise. It literally kisses the heavens, featuring a golden peak that serves as the cosmic gateway for the sun. Sugriva states that beyond this mountain, everything is enveloped in fathomless darkness.
Wow.
It is the absolute limit of the East. They simply cannot go further.
Which perfectly sets up the transition to the most critical direction of all, the south. Because, as anyone familiar with the text knows, this is the crucial path.
The main event.
Yes, this is the actual direction they need to be looking. Sugriva sends his heavy hitters here. He sends the Crown Prince Angada, the wise Jambavan, and the great Hanuman.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the southern route in the text is by far the most granular and detailed, and logically it should be. If this is where the primary target lies, the intelligence gathering has to be flawless.
It has to be accurate.
Exactly. It is a masterful blend of political reality, difficult topography, and perilous obstacles. To even begin moving south, the text warns them they must first navigate the Vindhyan mountain range.
And the text doesn't just pass over the Vindhyas. It paints a picture of a massive geographical barrier, describing it as having 1,000 peaks covered in dense, impenetrable forests and tangling creepers.
A literal wall of nature.
Right. And once they manage to cross the Vindhyas, the landscape shifts again. They have to navigate the major river systems of the Narmada and the Godavari.
Following the rivers, the survey meticulously lists the highly prosperous southern kingdoms they need to infiltrate and explore. Sugriva shows a deep geopolitical awareness of the South Indian landscape.
He tells them to search the territories of the Cholas, the Pandyas, and Kerala.
He does. The text even highlights the Tamarpani River, noting how it is infested with alligators and meets the sea like a youthful woman rushing to meet her lover.
I find that contrast fascinating. You have these beautiful poetic descriptions of rivers layered right on top of highly practical warnings about alligator infestations.
It's very practical poetry.
Finally, the Southern Search Party reaches the absolute edge of the subcontinent. They arrive at the Mahendra Mountain. The text describes it as a spectacular golden peak set up by the great sage Agastya, standing right at the edge of the churning ocean.
And in the narrative, this mountain serves as their ultimate launching pad.
Because across that ocean lies their true destination.
Yes, the island of Lanka. The text states this island is exactly 100 yohanas across the sea.
Now, to ground that measurement for you, a yohana in ancient terms is generally considered to be roughly 8 miles, or the distance a royal chariot might cover in a single day.
Right, so a 100 yohana crossing represents an incredibly daunting, massive expanse of water. This is the heavily fortified abode of Ravana, which the text notes was constructed by the celestial architect Viswakarma himself.
But crossing that 100 yojana ocean isn't just a matter of distance, is it? The text introduces some terrifying obstacles in the water.
Indeed it does. Sugriva specifically warns them about the Angaraka ogress.
The shadow catcher.
Exactly. She is described as a creature that pulls flying beings down into the crushing depths of the ocean simply by catching their shadow on the water.
That is terrifying.
It's a brilliant example of how this ancient map integrates topographical facts, like the treacherous strait separating India and Sri Lanka, with mythological hazards that represent the very real psychological dread of crossing the open sea.
So we've explored the familiar trade routes of the East and the highly detailed critical path of the South. Let's pivot to the Western expedition, the realm of sunset. Sugriva puts a capable leader named Susina in charge of this massive search party.
For the West, the geography once again begins with highly prosperous known territories. The search party is directed towards Saurashtra and Balika.
Now, Saurashtra is easily identified as modern-day Gujarat on the western coast of India. But Balika is where the scope of this map blows my mind.
It is a massive leap.
Yeah. Traditionally, Balika corresponds to ancient Bactria, which is modern-day Balk in northern Afghanistan. How did a text codified in ancient India have such a firm grasp on a kingdom in Afghanistan?
It speaks volumes about the interconnectedness of the ancient world. Bactria was a major intersection of ancient trade networks, basically a precursor to the Silk Road. Goods, stories, and geographical knowledge flowed freely between these regions.
That makes total sense.
From those territories, the Vanaras are told to explore the Western Sea, which we would call the Arabian Sea. And the text's knowledge of the coastal ecosystems here is remarkably precise.
It mentions thick groves of coconut trees, as well as specific flora like Kataka and Tamala trees along the shoreline.
Very accurate botany.
Wait, if they knew the precise coastal ecosystems of the Arabian Sea so well, why do you think the map suddenly throws in massive mythical fish? The text explicitly warns that the Western Sea is heavily infested with crocodiles and monstrous city-sized fish called timus.
Timus, yeah.
Were they just exaggerating whales?
That is a highly plausible theory. Ancient mariners navigating the Arabian Sea would absolutely have encountered massive marine life like blue whales or whale sharks.
And a blue whale is huge.
Right, so when those encounters are brought back to land and passed through oral tradition, a 60-foot whale easily becomes a monstrous timi capable of swallowing ships whole. It is geography filtered through human awe.
I love that phrase. Geography filtered through human awe.
And just like the East, the West eventually reaches its cosmic boundary. The text says they must search past the Vajra mountain, which is said to be made of solid diamond, and the Varaha mountain.
The Varaha mountain sounds wild. It's described as having golden peaks and being home to a massive golden city called Pragjayotisapra.
Ruled by a vile demon named Naraka.
Exactly. But the absolute limit of the West is a mountain called Astagiri, sometimes referred to as Marusavarni.
This is the western mountain of sunset. Sugriva explicitly warns his forces that the sun rapidly descends behind this mountain, plunging everything into endless, fathomless darkness.
The edge of the visible world.
Exactly. The search party absolutely cannot go further because in their geographical understanding, it is the literal edge.
Okay, we've done east, south, and west. Let's wrap up this earthly map with a northern expedition, which I like to call the realm of the gods. Sugriva puts the mighty warrior Satabali in charge of this final contingent.
The northern route pushes straight up into the highest, most unforgiving elevations of the world. Satabali's troops are directed to travel through the lands of the Avanas, the Kambojas, and the Sakas.
And these weren't mythological names, right?
No, not at all.
These were actual ancient tribes located in the northwestern regions of the Indian subcontinent and Central Asia. The Avanas are often identified with Indo-Greeks and the Sakas with ancient Scythians. It shows this text isn't just a map, it's an ethnographic record.
Exactly. It records the peoples of the earth just as meticulously as the mountains. And speaking of mountains, they then hit the Himalayas.
The text description is incredibly grounded here. It talks about snowy ranges thick with deodar groves, Ladra, and Padmaka trees.
But as they push further north, the journey gets incredibly harsh. The text reveals that to go further, they must cross a desolate, treeless expanse that stretches for 100 yochanas.
No rivers, no life. Just a terrifying, silent wasteland.
Right.
Could that wasteland be an ancient understanding of the high Tibetan Plateau? Or perhaps the Gobi Desert?
It is very likely. It represents a massive geographical dead zone that ancient travelers knew existed but rarely crossed. And this raises an important question for the search party. What is on the other side of that wasteland?
According to the text, the answer is the White Kailasa mountain. It is described as a brilliant snow-white peak, famous as the abode of Kuvera, the god of wealth.
And from White Kailasa, the map transitions entirely into Utopian realms. Once they pass the mountains, they reach the land of the Uttarakurus.
This place sounds unbelievable.
It really does.
It's described as a literal paradise. The text mentions rivers with golden sand, banks lined with precious gems, and clumps of beautiful blue lotuses with golden filaments. But the catch is, only souls who have performed meritorious deeds can live there.
A very exclusive location.
I always think of the Uttarakurus as an exclusive VIP lounge, but instead of a bouncer checking your ID, they are checking your karmic balance.
That is a perfect analogy. It represents a spiritual boundary just as much as a physical one. And if you somehow possess the merit to push past the Uttarakurus, you reach the northern sea. Rising out of the middle of this ocean is the golden Somagiri mountain.
The absolute northern limit.
Yes. Somagiri is the realm of the gods, specifically designated as the abode of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It is a place so radiant that the text claims it doesn't even need the sun to be illuminated.
That's incredible.
Sugriva warns Satabali that no created being can travel beyond Somagiri. It is the absolute, unquestionable boundary of the north.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If we picture this ancient GPS as a series of concentric circles, you can start to see how the ancients organized their reality. We've synthesized all these directions, places, and their real-world counterparts to decode this ancient wisdom.
It forms a very clear pattern.
It does. Rather than just listing them off, let's connect the dots on how this map functions as a whole. We've built a structured decoder table for you to visualize this ancient survey. Let's walk through it row by row. Column 1 is direction, column 2 is place, column 3 is description, column 4 is narrative role, and column 5 is the traditional identification.
I would love to walk through this. Let's start with the architecture of the north. Row 1, direction north. Place, Himalaya. Description, snow-clad mountain range with deodar groves. Narrative role, path of the northern search. Traditional identification, Himalayas.
Next row, direction north. Place, White Kailasa. Description, brilliant white mountain, Kuvera's Abode. Narrative role, major landmark. Traditional identification, Mount Kailash.
Moving deeper, direction north. Place, Uttarakurus. Description, utopian land with golden rivers and blue lotuses. Narrative role, deep northern boundary. Traditional identification, mythological north or Central Asia.
In the final northern row, direction north. Place, Somagiri. Description, golden mountain in the northern sea. Narrative role, absolute boundary of the north. Traditional identification, Arctic region or mythological pole.
The south follows a very similar logical progression, but with much more immediate tactical importance. Direction, south. Place, Vindhya. Description, mountain range with 1,000 peaks and dense forests. Narrative role, major obstacle in southern search. Traditional identification, Vindhya range.
Next, direction south. Place, Chola, Pandya, Kerala. Description, prosperous southern territories. Narrative role, kingdoms to be explored. Traditional identification, South Indian states.
They hit the coast. Direction south. Place, Mahenna Mountain. Description, golden mountain by the sea, set up by Agastya. Narrative role, launching pad to cross the ocean. Traditional identification, Eastern Ghats or southern tip.
And the final southern target. Direction, south. Place, Lanka. Description, island city 100 yojanas across the sea. Narrative role, Abode of Ravana, primary target. Traditional identification, Sri Lanka.
Now looking along the east-west axis. Direction, east. Place, Bhagirathi and Son. Description, swift rivers, one noted for reddish water. Narrative role, initial eastern search path. Traditional identification, Ganga and Son rivers.
Further east, direction east. Place, Yadwepa. Description, island graced with 7 kingdoms. Narrative role, distant eastern search area. Traditional identification, Java or the Indonesian archipelago.
And the edge. Direction, east. Place, Udayagiri. Description, the golden eastern mountain of sunrise. Narrative role, absolute boundary of the east. Traditional identification, mythological eastern boundary.
Finally, the west mirrors that expansion. Direction, west. Place, Saurashtra and Balika. Description, prosperous western territories. Narrative role, western search area. Traditional identification, Gujarat and Balkh or Bactria.
Hitting the water. Direction, west. Place, Western Sea. Description, ocean filled with timis, those huge fish, and crocodiles. Narrative role, Western Barrier. Traditional identification, Arabian Sea.
And the final row. Direction, west. Place, Astagiri. Description, the western mountain of sunset. Narrative role, absolute boundary of the west. Traditional identification, mythological western boundary.
This structured way of looking at the text reveals so much. It means that Sugriva's survey isn't just a map of physical dirt, rock, and water. It represents the absolute limits of human knowledge at the time the text was codified.
It's a map of their entire known reality.
Exactly. Notice the clear pattern we just traced. The inner ring, the locations closer to home, like the rivers of the east, the kingdoms of the south, or the trade ports of the west, are politically and geographically accurate. But as you step into the outer rings, human knowledge fades, and the map transitions into theology and mythology.
So what does this all mean? It's like zooming out on a digital satellite map today. But instead of the pixels just getting blurry or rendering as empty blue ocean at the edges, the ancient map turns into the realms of gods and monsters. I want you to think about that. Even in our modern age of 4K satellite imagery and global positioning, there's something deeply poetic about this ancient worldview.
There really is.
It places paradise, ultimate wealth, and the gods themselves just over the horizon of the known world. The unknown wasn't just empty space, it was sacred space.
This raises an important question and a final provocative thought for you to take with you today. If ancient people mapped their physical world by placing divine boundaries at the very edges of their understanding, Where do we place our mythological boundaries today?
That's a great question.
As we look out into the darkest edges of the cosmos with the James Webb Space Telescope or peer into the infinite, baffling depths of quantum physics, are we still just mapping the edges of our own Somagiri or Udayagiri? The tools have changed, but our human need to find wonder at the edge of the map remains exactly the same.
A brilliant thought to leave you with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into ancient wisdom. Until next time, keep pondering the boundaries of your own universe.